Hello student, today we discuss here the third lecture of thermodynamics. Last time we studied the application of Gibbs-Helmholtz equations, and in that equations we also study how to calculate the enthalpy change. Now on this basis, here we study the first example, how to calculate the enthalpy change delta H of the system. The example is the free energy change delta G for the reaction. This is the reaction. The free energy change delta G for the reactions twice Hg plus Hg2 Br. It gives twice Hg Br plus twice Hg is found to be minus 13,129.39 joules at 300 absolute, and delta G upon dt म्हणजे change in delta G upon dt at constant pressure is found to be minus 60.209 joules per absolute. Find the delta H for the reaction. Means here we want to find out the change in heat content, change in enthalpy of the system at this condition. Means here we are given the delta G is given and ddt of delta G is also given. From this we have to calculate the delta H of the reaction, delta H for this reaction. Now we know that the Gibbs-Helmholtz equation is delta G is equal to delta H plus T into ddt of delta G. We derived this equation in last lectures. This is the Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, and we know that delta G is equal to delta H plus T into ddt of delta G. Now from these equations we can find out the delta H. Delta H is equal to delta G. This term we take on the LHS side, and therefore delta H equal to delta G minus T into ddt of delta G. Now here we are given the value of delta G. Delta G is equal to minus 13,129 joules per absolute, and the value of ddt of delta G is minus 60.307, and the temperature is 300 absolute, and therefore putting all these value in these equations, the value of delta H is equal to, after calculating this value, lastly we get delta H is equal to 4,933.71 joules. Means this is the value of delta H. Means we calculate the value of delta H for these reactions. Means twice Hg plus Hg2Br 2. It gives twice HgBr plus twice Hg. For these reactions, here we calculate the delta H enthalpy change by using the Gibbs-Helmholtz equations. In this way, we have to solve the various types of examples which are related with the applications of Gibbs-Helmholtz equations. Next one. Now here we study the chemical potential or partial molar free energy. We have to study, we have to define what is the meaning of partial molar free energy, or what is the meaning of chemical potential, that we want to study here. All of us we know that if we are taking 100 ml water and 100 ml HCl, then if we mix this 100 ml water into 100 ml HCl, then the volume must be a 200 ml. But it is found that the volume is not a 200 ml, but it is less than that. It comes out to be, in some time it is 195 ml, or in some times 193 ml. Means what happens? Here the volume is decreases. Whatever the volume decreases, by the addition of 1 mole of any substance, that decrease in volume or that increasing volume we call as partial molar volume. Same is the case, here we want to study the partial molar free energy. Partial molar free energy means if we add 1 mole of any substance, 1 mole of any substance per liter, then whatever the free energy changes, whatever the free energy changes, that energy changes we call as partial molar free energy, or it is called chemical potential. We know that the value of thermodynamics property like energy, enthalpy, entropy, Helmholtz free energy and Gibbs free energy depends upon the mass of system. Means these are the thermodynamic quantity: internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, Helmholtz free energy, Gibbs free energy. This term depends upon the total mass of the system. They are depend upon the total number of mole of the system, or they are depends upon the number of particles which are present on the system. If the number of particles increases, number of mole increases, that property increases. If the number of mole decreases, that property decreases. And therefore, this property we call as extensive property. Similarly, we can also define intensive property. What is meant by intensive property? Those property which are independent on the number of mole, that property we call as intensive property. For example, density are the intensive property, because if we take 100 ml water or if we take 1000 ml water, then the density of this water is independent on its mass. The density of 100 ml water and the density of 1 liter is same. If the volume increases, if the mass increases, its density does not increase. This means that density is independent on the number of mole. Density is independent on the mass of the system, and therefore these are the intensive property. Temperature is the intensive property. Surface tension is the intensive property. Viscosity is the intensive property. Means here we define the two terms: intensive property, extensive property. Intensive property are those property which are depends upon the number of mole of the system, and extensive property are those property which are depends on the number of mole of the system. Now we know that in open system containing 2 or more component, then there can be number of mole of various component increase or decreases, because in open system what happens, if the solution evaporate, number of mole decreases, and therefore in open system this property changes, because in open system some of the mass of the system evaporate. Due to evaporation, number of mole decreases, and as the number of mole decreases, this property decreases, and therefore in open system containing 2 or more components, there can be change in the number of mole of the various components. In such cases, free energy delta G will be the function of temperature, pressure, as well as number of mole of the various system. Here Gibbs free energy is a function of temperature, because temperature increases, Gibbs free energy increases, temperature decreases, Gibbs free energy decreases, and therefore G is a function of temperature. Similarly, G is a function of pressure. If pressure increases, Gibbs free energy increases. If pressure decreases, Gibbs free energy decreases. Similarly, Gibbs free energy is a function of mole of the various components. If the number of mole increases, Gibbs free energy increases. If the number of mole decreases, Gibbs free energy decreases. And therefore, Gibbs free energy is a function of temperature, pressure, and number of mole of the system. And therefore, suppose here we consider any system. That system contains various components having N1, N2, N3 number of moles of the various components at temperature T and pressure P. Suppose G is the function of this quantity. G is a function of this quantity, means G is a function of temperature, pressure, and this number of mole of various components. next one. And hence therefore here G is a function of temperature, pressure and number of mole of various component. Here N1 is the number of first component, N2 is the number of second component, N3 is the number of third component. Means if the system contain various component, then N1, N2, N3 are the number of mole of that constituent which are present in the system, and therefore give free energy. G is a function of temperature, pressure and number of various components. For small change in temperature, pressure and number of mole of the component, change in free energy is given by, if temperature changes, pressure changes and number of mole of that component changes, then change in free energy is given by dG is equal to dG upon dt at constant pressure. Here pressure remain constant, number of mole of first component remain constant, number of second component remain constant, because here free energy changes with temperature, all other factors remain constant, and therefore dG upon dt is the change in free energy with respect to temperature. This is the change in free energy with respect to temperature, all other factors remain constant, and therefore change in free energy is given by dG upon dt at constant pressure and N1, N2, these are the number of mole of various components which are present in constant, plus dG upon dt, dG upon dP into dG upon dt at constant temperature, constant number of mole of first component, second component in this way into dP, plus dG upon dN1 at constant temperature, constant pressure and constant number of mole of N2, N3 etc into dN1, plus dG upon dt, dG upon dNi at constant temperature, pressure N1, N2, Ni minus 1, Ni plus 1 into dNi. Here I remain constant, here N1 remain constant, here pressure remain constant, and here temperature remain constant. This is the change in free energy with respect to temperature, pressure and number of mole of various components. Now the quantity dG upon dNi is called partial molar free energy or chemical potential, and it is represented by next one, mu I is equal to dG upon dNi at constant temperature, pressure and N1, N2, Ni minus 1, Ni plus 1 in this way. Here ith component remain constant, ith component is vary and all other component remain constant, and therefore chemical potential or partial molar free energy mu I is equal to, this mu I represent the partial molar free energy, or it is also called chemical potential, and that chemical potential is equal to dG upon dNi at constant temperature, pressure N1, N2, all these are the constant, and here this dG is vary with dNi at ith component. Hence partial molar free energy or chemical potential is defined as the change in free energy of the system, on addition of 1 mole of that particular substance at constant temperature, pressure. Means if we add 1 mole of any component in large quantity at constant temperature or pressure, then whatever the change in free energy, that change in free energy we call as partial molar free energy, or it is called chemical potential. In this way, here we define what is the meaning of chemical potential or partial molar free energy. Next one. Now here we derive the Gibbs-Dunn equations. We know that G is a function of temperature, pressure and number of moles, because G is the Gibbs free energy. This Gibbs free energy is a function of temperature, is a function of pressure, and is a function of number of moles. Because as the temperature increases, pressure increases, number of mole increases, this Gibbs free energy increases, or temperature decreases, pressure decreases, and number of mole decreases, Gibbs free energy decreases, and therefore G is a function of temperature, pressure, and number of mole of various components. Now, for a small change in temperature, pressure, and compositions, this change in free energy dg is equal to dg upon dt at constant pressure, number of mole of first component, number of mole of second component in this way into dt. Here this is the change in free energy with respect to temperature. All other component, all other factor remain constant. Here this is the change in free energy with respect to pressure at constant temperature and number of mole of various component into dp, plus this is the change in free energy with respect to first component. Here temperature, pressure, and other factor remain constant, and therefore we also know that dg upon dn1 is equal to mu1. dg upon dn1 is nothing but the mu1, because mu1 is nothing but the partial molar free energy, or it is also called chemical potential, and therefore dg upon dn1 is equal to mu1. Putting this value into this equation comes out to be dg is equal to dg upon dt into dg upon dt at constant pressure n1 n2 into dt plus dg upon dp at constant temperature n1 n2 into dp plus mu1, because what is mu1 here? dg upon dn1, instead of this dg upon dn1 we write here mu1, because it is the chemical potential, change in partial molar free energy with respect to first component, and therefore this is mu1 into dn1. Next term is mu2 into dn2 plus mu I into dn1. This is equation number first. This is the equation for open system. Because in open system, due to evaporation, number of mole of various component changes. As the number of mole of various component changes, the free energy also changes. Either it may be decreases or it is increases. But for closed system, number of mole remain constant. As the number of mole remain constant, and therefore dn1 is equal to 0 and dn2 is equal to 0, because n1 remain constant, derivative of this is equal to 0. n2 remain constant, and therefore derivative of this is again constant, and therefore as number of mole of any component remain constant, derivative of this is equal to 0, and therefore dn is equal to 0, dn2 is equal to 0, and therefore dg is equal to dg upon dt at constant pressure n1 n2 into dt plus dg upon dp at constant temperature n1 n2 into dp, because all other term become a 0. As dn1 is equal to 0, dn2 is equal to 0, all other term from the equation number 1 is become 0, and therefore the equation number 1 comes out to be dg is equal to dg upon d2 into dt plus dg upon dt into dp. Now comparing this equation, we compare this equation with respect to this equation, Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, that is dg is equal to minus sdt plus vdp. This equation we already known, and therefore dg is equal to minus sdt plus vdp. Comparing this equation and this equation, we get dg upon dt is equal to minus s, dg upon dt at constant pressure n1 n2 is equal to minus s. Similarly, dg upon dt at constant temperature n1 n2 is equal to v, and therefore dg upon dp is equal to at constant temperature n1 n2 is equal to v. Putting this value, that is minus s is equal to this value and v is equal to this value, the equation 1 comes out to be. Dg is equal to minus s dt plus vdp plus mu1 into dN1 plus mu2 into dN2 plus mu into dNi. Now the above equations, these equations give the variation of free energy with respect to temperature and pressure. This is the variation of free energy. This is the variation of free energy with respect to temperature and pressure. Now when the pressure remain constant, temperature remain constant. If we maintain the temperature and pressure of the system as a constant, then what happens? dP is equal to 0 and dt is equal to 0, and therefore this equation comes out to be dg is equal to, this term becomes 0, this term becomes 0 because dt is equal to 0, dp is equal to 0, and therefore dg is equal to mu1 into dN1 plus mu2 into dN2 plus mu into dNi. Integrating the above equation. Now integrate this equation. We integrate this equation. On integrating the above equations, we get g is equal to, because integration of d dt of g is equal to g. Mu1 into integration of this is n1 plus mu2 into integration of this is n2 plus integration of this is mu into ni. Next one. Now we differentiate this equation. On differentiating this equation, we get dg is equal to mu1 into dN1, mu2 into dN2, mu into dNi. Because here we maintain mu1 as a constant and we differentiate with respect to n1, and therefore this term comes out to be mu1 into dN1. Similarly, second term comes out to be mu2 into dN2. In next time, we maintain n1 as a constant and we differentiate mu1, and differentiation of this comes out to be d mu1, and therefore it comes out to be n1 into d mu1 plus n2 into d mu2 plus. Now this term mu1 into dN1 plus mu2 into dN2 plus mu into dNi, this term comes out to be, this is equal to dg, and therefore dg is equal to, this is dj, this instead of this we get dg is equal to dg plus n1 d mu1 plus n2 d mu2 plus ni into d mu I. Now this dg cancel, this dg cancel, and therefore this equation comes out to be n1 into d mu1 plus n2 into d mu2 plus ni into d mu I is equal to 0. This is nothing but the summation of ni into d mu I, where I varies from 0 to n is equal to 0. This equation is called Gibbs-Dumm equation, and it is applicable to a system at constant pressure and temperature. Means this is the equation. Here we derive that equation we call as Gibbs-Dumm equation, and that Gibbs-Dumm equation is applicable at constant temperature and pressure. In this way, here we derive the Gibbs-Dumm equation. In this way, here we stop our lectures. Thank you very much.